Guys, it's Mary. I wanted to talk to you guys about some things that are happening right now around the world. If you guys have not seen or you guys have not heard, right now our people are being treated like animals, literally like animals. They are being hunted down at their workplace when the only thing that they're trying to do is provide for their families and make income. Now showing up to courts and they're waiting for people outside of court and inside of the court wearing regular clothing. When the only our people are trying to do is do things the right way. People always say, do it the right way, do it the right way. And what's happening right now when we are trying to do things the right way, they are taking families apart. They are not only taking families, but they're also taking kids. Literally, kids. And I know that a lot of us feel helpless and we feel like we cannot do anything, but what we can do is speak up and we can use our voices. It doesn't matter if you have 10 followers, 20 followers, 30 followers, your voice matters.
Man, if it's not illegal, then it should certainly be illegal, and I'm not talking about undocumented people migrating to America, i.e., illegals. But what should be illegal, on top of that, should be the opinions of some of these illogical legal citizens. That's what should be illegal. Their thoughts is just crazy. I like to refer to them as, libtards. Liberals who are, insert the R word, the R word you can't say here on YouTube, but apparently I can say the N word, but I can't say the R word. Make that make sense, but whatever. Up is down, left is right. It is what it is. But anyways, libtards, and the whole situation with the legals, being rounded up by ICE. This right here, this is a great example of what I call misdirected empathy. When it's like when a person shows empathy and compassion to a person or a situation, this situation here, without realizing the negative impact it will have on others, as well as themselves. You are in fact, hurting yourself while thinking you're actually helping someone else. And to me, that is the best way to describe a libtard. When it comes to this illegal immigration situation that I'm seeing on TikTok and social media and so forth. Because look, listen, will some people get mistakenly, rounded up or detained? Yeah, that's very possible, But you know what a person should do to, reduce that possibility of that happening? How about try to keep your distance from people are here illegally? I don't know. Sounds like a crazy idea. Or how about don't hang out in places that they will congregate like too long outside of a Home Depot? But I think things like that would reduce the chances of being detained wrongfully. And let's say if one of the illegals or is your family member, then how about just sponsor them? I mean, when these people are rounded up, they're getting their due process, under the Constitution. I forget what amendment is, 12, 13, 14th Amendment, one of those amendments. But yeah, you still get to stand before an immigration judge. It's not like just take you to send it to Guantanamo or, alligator Alcatraz, whatever they call it. Unless something severe like you're a criminal or you've been here for less than 2 years with no proof of residency. But either way, why should people care so much for legals at the expense of, the homeless, veterans, or the elderly, the people who are, U.S. citizens, people that here that really need to be taken care of. The only reason I think someone would want to take care of an illegal over those people is because you basically want to hurt America, my country, and by being so empathetic to something, illegal, you then expose the most vulnerable among us, which are the children. You expose them to be exploited.
We begin in California, where a standoff between Border Patrol agents and protesters during an immigration raid turned violent. These raids took place at 2 Southern California cannabis farms, resulting in dozens of arrests. But it also drew several hundred protesters that led to clashes with officers. Correspondents Nancy Liu and Allie Bradley join us now live. Nancy, I'd like to start with you. How did all of this escalate?
Well, Kelly, the raid at this farm stretched into the night, part of a clearly coordinated large operation headed by ICE, we've learned, targeting Glass House Farms, which operates 2 massive cannabis growing facilities. And according to CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott, among those taken into custody, 10 juveniles, 8 of them in the U.S. illegally after entering as unaccompanied minors. Now, as word of the massive operation spread, hundreds of activists and protesters descended on the Glass House location northwest of L.A. The company bills itself as the largest cannabis growing operation in the world.
Forced child labor. And of course, when you go further down the rabbit hole, when it comes to child labor, yo, man, involving illegals especially, 9 out of 10 times, it's going to lead to smuggling, and even worse, human trafficking, which is by force or coercion. And this is what misdirected empathy, does. It impairs your ability to make sound judgment and decisions. You're thinking too emotionally. Then the next thing you know, you're you're explaining, or at least to me, justifying a narrative at the expense of protecting children. I mean, just hear what what's the lady, Abby Phillips from CNN had to say on this.
You're telling me the undocumented?
I'm not saying the undocumented. I'm not talking about the
marijuana farm.
I'm not talking about the undocumented part, but according to this statement, in this country, not just at farm, and not at marijuana farms, at all
semantics.
farms.
Look at the reality of what
I'm
we're
just saying,
talking about. How did an unaccompanied, undocumented 14-year-old in the middle of the day?
I believe that, and many people might believe, children should be subject to child labor laws.
Absolutely.
But it's true in this country that when it comes to agricultural work, they're not, and that includes marijuana farms. So the legality of their status is a separate issue, but the fact of children being there is not actually something that is necessarily illegal.
I have a really hard time believing
So there's that. So it's not unusual for there to be teenagers and working in a farm.
A 14-year-old can work at a marijuana growing.
It doesn't matter whether it's a marijuana farm or an apple farm.
A kid can't work at a bar.
It's agriculture. They're not smoking
If
the
that's
marijuana.
the law, that's outrageous.
They're cultivating it.
Changed.
The point is, this incident, and we're still learning a lot more about it, was very dangerous and put a lot of people, including ICE officers and those immigrants, in danger.
Federal law enforcement agents.
I agree with you, but the tactics are producing chaos and violence, and I think that is one of the things that's caused
that you're talking
people to.
Yo, I guarantee that this lady Abby Phillips, she would not be talking this way if that was one of her children there. If one of her kids was at that wheat farm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, her bougie ass, she'd probably be more upset that her kids were around illegals than being around weed. I mean, I'm sure she likes to take a little, hit of the spliff, once in a while. I'm not judging. But I mean, these people are so pompous. I mean, it's so fake, but what that CNN anchor did right there, that was not misdirected empathy. That to me, that was just staying married to a narrative. A narrative that the mainstream media pushes, and with their minions or pawns that out there on the social media world like Twitter and so forth, that's what they go on, and then shame people like myself, whose parents came here in the 70s legally, but I'm supposed to feel shameful or heartless because I want other people, to follow the law that my parents followed decades ago. Man, you got me twisted, man. But yeah, so anyways, leave a comment down below. Tell me, is it wrong to want people that come over here illegally to be deported? Come on.